السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. All praise and glory to Allah and peace and blessings to Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. All the Anbiya, Shuhada and Salihin. Some of you might recall, a few weeks ago I spoke about knowledge. And I spoke about Muhammad ibn Musa, or commonly known as Khwarizmi, who is known as the father of algebra. And I spoke in brief about Ibn Sina, the father of medicine, with showing the importance of seeking knowledge, like these two. Among many other scholars, I call him ulama, seeking knowledge. And these two individuals, among others, lived about 8,000 years ago in what is now referred to as the golden ages of Islam. I want to continue a bit about this idea of knowledge, or the unification of knowledge, the unification of what we have ourselves created, this thing called Dini knowledge and Dunya knowledge, secular knowledge and religious knowledge. We need to unify these two. They are all from the same source, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I decided, let me go back. I went back 1,000 years. Today I'm going to go back 3,000 years. Try and make us understand of the importance of unified mind when it comes to knowledge. That all knowledge is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We will go back roughly 3,000 years ago to the formation of arguably the greatest kingdom on earth, which we know is the kingdom of Sulaiman alayhi salam, the prophet King Sulaiman alayhi salam. The story of this great kingdom begins not with Sulaiman alayhi salam, but with his father Dawud alayhi salam. And Dawud alayhi salam, we know from the common story, Muslims, Jews, Christians know the common story of how the young Dawud alayhi salam killed the great giant Goliath, Jalut, using what historians term as a sling. Now the sling itself is an amazing device, a little simple device that was used by Dawud alayhi salam, and he killed the feared Goliath. People feared Goliath. This began the confidence of Bani Israel. Now, I'm just going to take a look at just a few verses that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed to us about Dawud alayhi salam. I'll let you use your own minds to understand these verses as well and to apply yourself. They come from chapter 34, Surah Saba, verses 10 to 12. I'm just going to take 3 verses from the Quran to try and bring us back to this importance of what we call dunya, secular knowledge. Verse 10. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا دَاوُودَ مِنَّا فَضْلًا. In the past, we bestowed grace aforetime on Dawud alayhi salam. يَا جِبَالُ أَوِّبِي مَعَهُ وَالطَّيْرُ وَأَلَنَّا لَهُ الْحَدِيدِ. O you mountains, sing you back the praise of Allah with him, with Dawud. And you birds. وَأَلَنَّا لَهُ الْحَدِيدِ. And we made the iron soft for him. It's 3,000 years ago. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us about this great prophet. What does Allah tell us about this great prophet of his, Dawud alayhi salam? Firstly, Allah says that we gifted him. What was Dawud alayhi salam gifted with? 2 things. Number 1, he would go and sing the praises and glory of Allah. يُسَبِّحْنَ بِهِ. In another verse it says, أَوْبِ بِهِ مَعَهُ وَالطَّيْرُ. But in another verse it talks, يُسَبِّحْنَ بِالْعَشِيِّ وَالْإِشْرَاقِ. Allah says that he should sing the praises and glory of Allah. And the mountains with him. Allah had subjected the mountains to him. And the birds gathered all together. This is beauty of Dawud alayhi salam. And if you have to read the Psalms of Dawud, the Zabur, which we know, Allah talks of the Zabur, then we find Dawud alayhi salam is immensely connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Immersed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you read the Psalms of Dawood, we know that there might have been interference, but you see how he communicates with Allah. Those Psalms are like poems, where he's crying to Allah, begging Allah to help him against his enemies. He had enemies from every side, begging for Allah's mercy. But at other poems, he's praising and glorifying Allah. These words have that give us the guidance of the connection to Allah. He was always speaking to Allah, always connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That was number one, the connection he had with Allah, the glorification of Allah. And what was the second gift given to him? وَعَلَنَّا لَهُ الْحَدِيدِ. Allah says, and the second gift we gave him is we made iron soft for him. Now, we don't realize the power of iron soft for him. The power of iron soft for him was a technological advancement in his time that was going to begin the technological revolution of warfare. What's the next verse? أن اعمل سابغات وقدر في السرد واعملوا الصالحا إني بما تعملون بصير. Saying, commanding, make you coats of mail, balancing well the rings and chains and the rings of chain armor, and work your righteousness, for be sure I see all that you do. So what's the second verse? Verse 12 now. Verse 11, sorry. Make coats of mail. What is coats of mail? It's armor. It's clothing. But this clothing has what? It's got rings and chains attached to it. Now, the fact that Allah had guided him and taught him how to take iron, and iron would be made soft into swords, that is common. But there was something extra to this technology here. He could take the iron and make it into smaller pieces. And those smaller pieces could be attached to clothing, and the armor was made. This was a breakthrough in warfare. This is unbelievable technology. Today, what do we have? What is the breakthrough technology we have today? What is today's breakthrough technology? Nanotechnology. What is nanotechnology? Being able to use elements at the smallest level. Nanotechnology. What did he have in his time? Nanotechnology was being able to take steel and make it into tiny pieces so that it could be put onto the clothes, and it became armor. Swords and armor. Imagine you fighting an enemy. You got a sword and you got a steel armor, and that guy has no steel armor. You're gonna win him. You've got the advantage over him. And this is what began the power of this kingdom of Sulaiman al-Islam. So what are the two gifts? The two gifts that Allah gave Dawud al-Islam, number one, was how he would remember Allah and glorify Allah. Even the Bible, when you go to the Bible, it mentions of how Dawud al-Islam had a sweet voice, and how he was known for his voice, like singing zikrs. He was known for it. And number two, he was given technological advantage. By Allah giving him the ability to soften iron and mold it into small pieces to make that armor, which becoming a turning point in warfare 3,000 years ago. Like I said, it's roughly, Isa alayhi salam lived about 2,000 years ago. And before them, there was Zakaria alayhi salam, Yahya, and we go back, then just after Musa alayhi salam, the Dawud alayhi salam comes between Musa alayhi salam and Isa alayhi salam, 2,500, 3,000 years ago. This technology, this technology that started, of using iron, has survived for maybe 2,500 years. I mean, let's face it, swords and armor has been used for the past 2,500 years. I mean, for those of us who watch At-Turul, Resurrection, we find that even 800 years ago, when At-Turul is fighting, the most important thing was a sword and armor. And these became the standard weapons of warfare. So, iron soft has an important role in the Quran. It is so important, this thing of iron, that a chapter in the Quran is called Surah Hadid. Iron. There's a chapter called Hadid, or Iron. And the chapter number is 57. And I remember reading a few places somewhere. 57, being the Surah 57 also has some sort of, if you understand and you give thought, that the atomic mass of iron, there's 4 isotopes, for 54, 55, 56, 57 or something. And 57 is one of the isotopes, it's the atomic mass of iron. And if we can look at it and understand that there's some message to humanity, to look and harness what Allah has put in the ground. Allah has put it in the ground. It's like I was saying last week, I think it was last or 2 weeks ago. I said, you look at lithium. Lithium. Who created lithium? You know, in your phone, what do you have? What battery do you have? Every battery's got lithium. The cars and the machinery got lithium. But who put a lithium in the ground? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He kept it a secret and He kept it hidden. And the Prophet ﷺ came and he said, go and seek knowledge. What did the Prophet ﷺ say? طَلَبُ الْعِلْمِ فَرِيضَةً عَلَى كُلِّ Muslim. Seeking knowledge is fard on every Muslim. Another hadith which says, go seek knowledge even to China. Now some people say that is a weak hadith, am I right? But most scholars say no, it might be a weak hadith, but it's accepted by the majority of scholars because it makes sense that you can even go to China to seek knowledge. Now, what knowledge are you going to go to China to seek? Or what knowledge will the Prophet ﷺ tell his followers to go and seek? The Quran came to Muhammad ﷺ. The complete guidance was in the Quran and his example. So why must someone go and seek knowledge? Listen to this again. I don't know if it makes sense to you. Why would he tell people to go and seek knowledge when guidance itself had come in the form of the Quran? I can't tell my son, go and look for guidance in China. I would tell my son, seek for guidance in the Quran. And the example of the Prophet ﷺ. So what is this idea of seeking knowledge? Is it just the so-called dini knowledge? The religious? No. That is in the Quran and in the Sunnah. The real knowledge we were supposed to go and seek is that knowledge which Allah has kept hidden on the earth, under the earth. The power that will give Muslims, that gave Dawud al-Islam that power. Because without that power you can't establish justice. Now, we'll come back to that maybe in the conclusion. That was actually the conclusion, by the way. So, just verse 12. I read for you Surah 34, verse 10. Talked about the sinning of Dawud al-Islam and how Allah made the iron soft for him. And verse 11, which that technology led to armor, creating or making smaller objects with steel that could be used on clothing to make armor. Verse 12, وَلِسُلَيْمَانَ الرِّيحَ, and the next one is Sulaiman. وَلِسُلَيْمَانَ الرِّيحَ غُدُوُّهَا شَهْرٌ وَرَوَاحُهَا شَهْرٌ وَسَلْنَا لَهُ عَيْنٍ الْقِطَرِ وَمِنَ الْجِنِّ مَنْ يَعْمَلُ بَيْنَ يَدَيْهِ بِإِذْنِ رَبِّهِ وَمَنْ يَزِغْ مِنْهُمْ عَنْ أَمْرِنَا نُذِقْهُ مِنْ عَذَابِ السَّعِيرِ. And to Sulaiman we made the wind obedient. Its early morning stride was a month's journey and its evening stride was a month's journey. I'm not going through wind, but listen to the next part. And we made a font of molten brass or copper. Some comments say brass, some say copper. Copper to flow for him. I found this amazing. We're talking of iron in the first 2 verses. And then in the next verse, Allah is saying now in the time of Sulaiman, the technology had gone so further that in the time of Sulaiman, he had a fountain of molten copper. Why would Allah reveal this in the book 1400 years ago, that this book must last, and tell us about this molten copper fountain, after talking about the iron? Now this word here is qitar. Allah says, وَأَصْلَحْنَا لَهُ أَيْنَ الْقِطَرِ, a fountain of qitar. What is qitar? Some commentators say brass. Brass is an alloy of copper as it is. Others just say copper. Now, this idea of copper is important. Again, copper is an important element. And if we just go, I'm going to run to Surah Kaf. Many of us read Surah Kaf, am I right? Thursday nights. Surah Kaf. And it talks of Zulkarnain, the story of Zulkarnain. Now, because of time, I'm just going to read the one. The people asked Zulkarnain to protect them from Gog and Magog because they were causing trouble. So, Sulaiman a.s. agreed to help them. So he says, Atuni zubur al-hadid, bring me blocks of iron. At length, when he had filled up the space between the two steep mountain sides, he put iron blocks between the mountain sides. He said, blow with your bellows. They were blowing on it. You know how you make a braai? You take the cardboard and you make wind to increase the oxygen so it will burn more. So there, the iron, and they were blowing on it to make it, to increase the density of the heat, to make it more molten. Then when he had made it as a fire, he said, حتى إذا جعله نارا قال آتوني أفرغ عليه قطرا. Bring me that I may pour over it molten lead. It's translated literally is qitra, copper, brass, lead, whatever it was. There's another element, another metal used to cover the wall. Why? Why to cover the wall? Why would Zulkarnain cover the iron wall? We all know it. If you buy steel and you make your devil's fork gate, you know that iron rusts very easily. So he poured molten copper over it to prevent the rust, so it would last longer. Today, one of the most common things in our household items that we buy is the idea of galvanization, which is when they use zinc to plate iron, because iron is strong, you want the iron, but it rusts quickly. So they put a coating of zinc so it will last longer, or here in this case, coating of copper. Now, why am I talking about iron and zinc and copper? I'm not talking, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about it. 1400 years ago, there was the scholars, the ulama, we who read the Quran should be saying, Allah, what is in this iron? Let's go out and seek knowledge. Now this is where you go and seek knowledge. Go and find out more about iron. I mean, the tanks that drive into Gaza every now and again. The planes that shoot the missiles are made of what? Iron. They mold iron. The missiles are made of irons, packed with other explosive elements. And we can do nothing and we are powerless. And that boils down to our misconception or understanding of what it means to go and seek knowledge. Our misconception that iron is the knowledge of dunya. How? The knowledge of secular knowledge. How can iron be secular knowledge? When Allah says, وَأَنزَلْنَا الْحَدِيدِ, and we send down iron from the sky, and the scientists tell us all the iron on earth came from outer space, and Allah told us this 1400 years ago. You studying iron? Does that not make you ulama, alim? No. Alim and ulama is only you read Quran and sit in a masjid. No. Allah created the earth for mankind. Allah created the whole earth for mankind. And Allah sprinkled it with power. With great power, but He has hidden it. Because Allah has given us this ability and Allah wants us to use our creativity, our imagination, our zest, and to go and find His minerals. Why? Not to become rich, like what is happening in this world, to patent every product you take out of the ground, and to manipulate mining and to become rich out of it. No, these are products that will benefit humanity, that will lead to progress and peace and justice. You cannot, like I said last time, you cannot establish justice. And we will not be able to sit here and make dua for the people in Gaza or Syria until we go out and find this material for war that Allah has discussed in His own book. How are you going to stand up for justice? How can you protect your brothers and sisters if you have no technology? If your idea of technology is secular knowledge. No. It's religious knowledge. It's divine knowledge. When Allah sent down the rain, when Allah sent down the iron, when Allah made the iron soft for Dawud alayhi salam, He left a legacy that you too must take up the idea of technology. Take that iron, then you can create the great kingdom. You want the great kingdom because people are suffering. You're on the TV, people are suffering. Wherever you look, people are suffering. Everywhere you go, people are suffering. The only solution is for us to change our mindsets. We have got critical flaws in our thinking. We should embark on this seeking of knowledge. Talab al-ilm faridan ala kulli Muslim. We should use Dawud al-Islam as this example. And I'll leave you with this. Dawud al-Islam should be our example. The Prophet should be our example. He was a man connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, crying to him, pleading with him, arguing with Allah, begging of him, praising him, glorifying him. And yet, maybe the next morning he was sitting there with his iron, with his people, building, making these armors, making these swords, protecting himself against the enemies. That gives us the unified example of how we got to build the connection with Allah and seek the powers that Allah has left on this earth, the resources on this earth, and use that collectively to establish peace and justice. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase us in knowledge, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fill our hearts with the desire of seeking knowledge, and may Allah grant knowledge back to the believers who have lost it. May Allah guide the whole ummah to study, to seek the resources He has left, so that Islam can be strong again, so that the poor can be protected again, so injustice can be overruled. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.